Turn back to Genesis 32. The next week's passage is the one that typically in this chapter you're familiar with, where Jacob wrestling with the angel, and we will look at that next week and make some applications there that I think will be beneficial. I'm working on that now. But this first part seems almost insignificant, yet it really isn't. We have here, you have behind you God's presence in scary confrontations. Every one of us has different things that scare us. What scares you may not scare me, and vice versa. We often think of children, for instance, of being scared of the dark. Yet I know a lot of adults who are scared of the dark. Now, being in the dark may not scare you at all, but you might be panicked by water. You might have no problem with water, and you may have no problem, for instance, with heights, or maybe even riding a motorcycle, or doing all sorts of things, but boy, the idea of a shark petrifies you to death. We all have different fears. Yesterday, we're driving across 80 and crossing the Mississippi, and I can tell when we're getting close to that bridge, because Lisa gets really quiet. She has a thing with heights and water, and crossing the bridge does both. Neither one of those things bother me, but I tell you what, where I always get an eerie feeling, I've never been out to San Francisco, but growing up in Michigan, I always would go up to Mackinac Island, and the bridge between the upper and lower peninsula of Michigan, the Mackinac Bridge, when you get to the height of that and you see nothing but water on both sides, even if you're not scared of heights or water, you'll get a little eerie. Especially the last time I drove across there was on my honeymoon. It's been a few years ago, I know. 17 will be this summer, 17 years. That means my wife's getting old. I'm not. That means she's getting old. But anyhow, those 17 years ago, right before that, remember the Yugo? Anybody remember the Yugo? The little matchbox car that they made in the former Yugoslavia. One of those blew off into the Straits of Mackinac when it went across there, and I thought about that as I was driving last time. Normally that doesn't scare me, but we all have things that scare us. Big things don't scare me, little things do. Snakes, I don't know why, I'm getting better at it, but snakes used to always petrify me. Now I can at least watch TV shows with snakes on them. It didn't matter the kind, that was me. Jacob now is going back to his homeland. Now, he just came off confronting his father-in-law, the snake Laban. Remember, we learned about Laban last week and how nasty he was. Here was a guy that was willing to cheat not only his son-in-law, but his kids and his grandkids, and then say that he loved him. He was a really nasty guy. And Jacob confronted Laban. Well, now he's coming back, and now he's getting ready to do something a little more close to home. Now he's going to meet up with his brother, whom Jacob had stolen from. Yes, there were things that God promised to Jacob, that his older brother would serve him. But there were things that God didn't promise that Jacob did. And then Jacob still tried doing things his own way, to where although Laban was nasty, Jacob didn't have a whole lot of room to talk, because here was a guy who decided to trick his blind father. Now he goes back and confronts, or he's going to see that brother. Talk about being in a scary situation. Talk about being in a scary confrontation. That's where Jacob finds himself. But what we will learn this morning is that God gives us presence in scary situations. God gives us presence in scary situations. There'll be four things. We can take comfort from the revelation that angels of God are present. Number two, we need to realize that we often will face dangerous situations. God, in fact, has us often as part of his plan. Thirdly, we'll learn that we can pray for protection with confidence, because God will be with us and has a plan to protect us. And then finally, we realize that often, like Jacob, we will attempt ourselves to get ourselves out of situations rather than relying on God for his protection.